Hey there, everyone. Another episode of In the Car With, and today we are in the car with Allen Huffman. Allen is a two-time NASCAR truck track champion in late model trucks. Allen, tell us a little bit more about yourself. You're from Hickory, North Carolina. What else should people know about you, just as a general introduction?
Yeah, so born and raised in Hickory, grew up in Hickory all my life. Really haven't ventured out too much. Lived within about a 5 mile radius of where I grew up my entire life, and kind of growing up, there was two places I could typically be found, and one was church on Sundays and Wednesdays, and the other was the racetracks on Friday and Saturdays. So that's kind of what I was typically involved with and what I was around, and yeah.
That's awesome. So, we said that you are a two-time NASCAR truck track champion, but what is something that you are most proud of accomplishing so far in your life, career? What are you proud of?
The championships are definitely been a highlight. To be able to be a part of a race team, an organization where we've been able to find some success on the racetrack and win some races and stuff like that. But really, probably the thing that makes me the most proudest is just what we do outside of racing. So I run a ministry called NCN Ministries. We travel and do church events, school events, camps, revivals, conferences, stuff like that. And it's really just being able to look back on what I've had the privilege to be a part of there. Yeah. To be able to make a positive impact in our community, whether it's at the racetrack or at a church event. But to be able to do that and do it in a way where we're leaving a deeper legacy leaving our world in a better place than I found it.
Right.
At least that's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, along with that, there has to be a lot of challenges, right? So what do you feel like are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced so far?
I guess it kind of depends on what you're referencing. If it's from the racing side, I didn't grow up in a rich family. I didn't grow up with a famous racing last name. So from the racing side, even though my parents supported me 100%, they backed me in any idea, any thought that I had, no matter how crazy it was. But they were, at the same time, they were honest. They like, hey, if you want to do this racing thing, you're gonna have to figure it out. Right. And so, the biggest challenge has just been trying to put that stuff together and put the funds together and the resources together to be able to do what we do on Saturday nights and to be able to put on a show for the fans. Outside of that is, really just struggling with, I knew that God had called me to do something different, and just trying to work through that and get myself in a place where I knew that we could could be in a position to make a difference.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned something in there that I think is so kind of pivotal sometimes for people. Is like your parents supported you, but at the same time they also challenged you like to help yourself in a sense, right? You said like, hey, like we want you to do this. This is great, but you're gonna have to kind of figure it out. How do you think that like helps you kind of just in life in general, like that kind of mentality?
Well, so you learn real quick that as you see things that you want in life, you learn real quick that you can't depend on somebody else to do it for you. So it's given me a lot of a sense of ownership, a sense of good pride in that aspect that I've worked hard for what I've got and where I'm at. But it also gives you a lot of humility as well, because you realize that, yes, I have worked hard for this, but there have been those people along the way that have helped to make it possible, and they've seen that hard work, they've seen the determination, they've seen the work ethic, And because of that, they have stepped up to help in bigger ways and to be a bigger part of kind of what we're doing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you have been doing this NASCAR driving thing for a while, right? Can you tell us, once again, two-time truck champion in late model trucks. Can you tell us what your most memorable win was as a driver?
It was absolutely the very first one, which I guess kind of maybe sounds like the status quo. That one should be, but that one was really special because I'd been racing since 2000, and we'd only been in the trucks for 2 years, and that started real bumpy. But I had this one guy that he was the one that I would call at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm just like, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Don't know if, the money's tight. We don't have the resources these other teams have. Just not really sure we're going to be able to pull this off. And he was the one that was always, dude, you just got to keep digging, keep working, keep fighting. He was at the race shop, throughout the week. He never missed a race. He was just always there. The part I didn't tell you is he was confined to a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
He was basically just had arm movements, from the waist up. So he was confined to a wheelchair, but that didn't slow him down. I mean, he would work just as hard as anybody else on the team. He had a chance to spot for my brother a couple times, and just a great guy. So in October of 2016, biggest race of the year, and it's called the Fall Brawl, walking through the pits, and there's this huge trophy that honestly wouldn't fit in this Camaro. Yeah. It was that big. I walked by with my crew chief. I'm like, I want that trophy. And he's like, well, you know what we got to do to make that happen?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, sure do. And then we're looking, and I say I'm looking, and I see the competition that's there for that weekend, and some heavy hitters, some big names, some good trucks. And I'm like, I was pretty much already defeated, because I'm like, man, we can't outrun these guys.
Right.
And ended up, we sat on the pole, led every lap, all 50 laps, start to finish, straight away the field a few times, and cruised home to our first victory. And
wow.
it was definitely all by the grace of God, the way all of that worked out. But Anthony was his name. Anthony was the first, maybe the second person to the truck.
In a wheelchair.
In a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He come around the exit of pit road as he made that U-turn to go onto the track. I'm pretty sure the wheelchair came up on two wheels. He was a little excited.
Yeah.
And so he came out, and it was a huge night of celebration for us. It was so much fun, and I still have, those pictures are the ones that are still up on the, my screenshots and backgrounds and all that stuff. But Anthony ended up passing away in February of 2017, and I still to this day remember, and I've got a ton of supporters, but he was the one that every single day was, just keep digging, keep working. You're going to get that first win, and to be able to celebrate that first win with him was extremely important.
Yeah. So, you mentioned you love being with your fans and around your fans, and you mentioned this one specific fan, Anthony. How did you meet? Like, what ways do you interact with your fans? Specifically, how did you meet Anthony? And then, share with us about how you kind of interact with your fans and what you do outside of that.
Yeah, so I actually came across Anthony at the racetrack. He was at one of the autograph sessions, and one thing led to another, and we just kind of got talking there, and he's like, well, do you guys ever need any help? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure what he was going to be able to do at that point, and I was like, nothing else. It'd be nice just to have somebody else at the shop to kind of talk with and hang out with. And I learned real quick he wasn't content with that. He wanted a job to do.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how that started. And then there's another family that's actually part of our race team and ministry now, and that's kind of how we met. It was at autograph session, and her mom was really bad sick in the hospital, and so we kind of started talking over that, and ended up in a bind one week. It was just going to be me and my brother at the racetrack, and I called them up like, hey, could you guys come help at the race this weekend? And they're like, we know nothing about racing. I was like, it's okay. I just need bodies. I just need somebody who can push.
Yeah.
And they agreed. They accused me of bamboozling them, that I tricked them into something. But so that's how I got to meet them. My crew chief, which is now my best friend, I met him at an event we did for a church. It was a Halloween trunk or treat.
Okay.
Met him there, and he loved racing and wanted to be a part. So that's how I got to meet him.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we do a lot of stuff with fans. The autograph sessions before and after the race. I always make it a point to try to get up to the grandstands to be able to hang out with some of the fans. You get to say hey to some people, no matter how great or how bad the day has been.
Right.
I try to make it a point to get up there to be able to talk with them and just thank them for coming out and being a part.
Yeah, and you've told me before on other occasions that that's one of your favorite parts about being a NASCAR driver. You can drive all these different cars or at these different tracks or whatnot, but you said you've really loved the fans.
Absolutely. Well, without the fans, we don't have a place to race. If fans aren't coming to the track, if they're not tuning in to the pay-per-views, if they're not engaging in what we're doing, we don't have anywhere to race. We have no purpose to race.
Right.
I remember 2020, the year of COVID, we wasn't allowed to have fans in the grandstand, so everybody was pay-per-view or watching online.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege of winning one of those races, and I'll never forget pulling up on the front stretch, and you turn the truck off, and you go to get out, and it's just absolute total silence. It was the weirdest thing ever. It's so much more fun to race in front of fans.
Right. Yeah. Well,
put a show on.
Yeah, you have somebody to put a show on for, somebody that's cheering for you. That ancillary noise. So, how do you stay with all that noise that's around you? The noise of the truck, noise of maybe fans or whatnot. How do you stay focused as a driver?
Yeah. So, it's funny you asked that question because I struggle a little bit with, I guess, kind of ADD because I have a hard time staying focused and staying on track sometimes. But the crazy thing is, racing is kind of that outlet for me that I don't have to focus so much on staying focused. Okay. It's the one thing that just kind of helps me to be able to just naturally kind of relax, but naturally focus on what's going on, because it is, such a high pressure, you don't have room for mistakes. You don't have time to think about, well, what am I going to eat for dinner, or what do I got to do here or there?
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking about that stuff during a race, then you're already setting yourself up to lose.
Right.
So, but even with that, there are those times, mid-race or whatever, depending on where you're running, that your mind can start to wander if you're not careful. And on those, honestly, for me, it's just kind of reminding myself of, hitting my marks, doing the right things, being consistent, really trying to stay focused on doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the truck or car. So it's just that intentional approach to really try to just stay sharp and focus on what you're doing. But at the same time, there's kind of a peace in that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what's happening in politics or the weather or sports or whatever else. It's all that matters is the task at hand in that moment.
Yeah. You mentioned the high stress. You mentioned the high stress of it. How do you handle that stress? There's got to be, you're going 100 miles an hour or more, I guess at times, and with 20, 30 other cars on the track with you. How do you handle that? Because that is metal flying around that you could literally die in a split second if you lose that focus that we were just talking about.
Well, and it's funny. My boss came down for one of our races one year, and after the race, he was speechless. He's like, I don't see how you run that speed, that close, mere inches off of each other, and you call it fun. I'm like, there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
Yeah.
But It's, sometimes I handle it better than others. I used to not be able to handle it as well as I do now, but I'll never forget I had actually a fan, and his two sons came down to the pits after the race one week, and he's like, hey man, tough break. We had gotten wrecked, and tough break. I was like, yeah, it really stinks. He's like, yeah, it looked like he was a little frustrated. I said, yeah, I was pretty mad. He said, yeah, I could tell. He said, my son pointed out when you threw your helmet in the trailer. Oh. And that was when it hit me that, wait a minute. We're setting an example for not just every fan, but more specifically, the student generation that's out here watching us each and every single week.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, I really tried to start focusing on, okay, if I need to throw a temper tantrum, I need to go up in the trailer, get away from people. But that has developed to where, and my faith has grown a lot over the last 10, 15 years. And so I do a lot better job of that now than, I did then. Now instead of getting out and wanting to throw stuff and beat things up, it's, just deep breath and just, through prayer that, God help me not to do anything that would point people away from you and damage my testimony.
Yeah. You mentioned you're having a lot of eyeballs on you. We don't have a lot of eyeballs on us right now in this vehicle, which we are in a Chevy Camaro 1SS 2020 that we have here at Everett Chevrolet. This is in the car with, so we have to talk about the car at some point.
Absolutely.
You are a Chevrolet fan yourself.
100%.
And can you share about the Ford story? You used to own a Mustang and a Chevy at one point in time. Yeah. So, those are kind of two dueling brands.
They are.
What caused you to say, you know what, I'm out? Like, Chevrolet only from here on out.
Yeah, so, and I love American muscle cars. I just love, it doesn't really matter what brand they are, I just love the raw power of American muscle. But when it comes down to it, if I have a choice, it's Chevy all the way. Everything I own is Chevy. The hauler for the race team is a Chevy. My fun car is a Chevy Camaro. My daily driver is a Chevy Impala. Both of our race cars are, one's a Chevy Camaro, one's a Silverado. But really kind of the change point for me is me and three of my buddies was headed down to Concord Motorsports Park. We was going to go watch a race.
Yeah.
I was going to go meet this girl.
Okay.
And so
it always starts out that way, right?
It does,
I'm going to meet this girl.
Yeah. So we were heading down to go meet this girl or to go watch the race. And we get about 6.5 miles from the racetrack. And I go to take off. I was in a 2000 GT Mustang. Loved the car. It was a great fun car up to this point. And I go to pull off from the stoplight, and we got about 50 foot, and all of a sudden smoke comes out of everywhere. Like out from under the hood, up in the windshield, through the vents, out the back, like smoke everywhere.
Okay.
Like, well, this ain't good. So I found a place to pull in, pop the hood, and smoke is boiling out of the engine. All right, well, this isn't good at all.
Well, especially when you're going to meet a girl.
Exactly. And, I had like 15, 20 minutes to get there, to be there for the beginning of the autograph session.
Right.
Because her brother was racing in the race that was there that night.
Okay.
So we had to be there for the autograph session. So pull the hood, looking at it, diagnose what it is, figure it out. It was a heater core inlet valve. Well, what stinks is Ford decided they were going to have a plastic intake. Don't know why, but they did. So there was nowhere that had a part. You couldn't get the part. Come to find out, to fix it, you have to replace the entire intake.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're standing there in the parking lot of this fish camp, and I look at the three friends that are with me. I said, well, we got two choices. We either stand here and y'all put up with me, or we start walking. They unanimously, very quickly said, let's walk. I'm like, it's 6.5 miles. We don't care. It's better than standing here with you mad. Okay, cool.
All right.
So we started walking. So 6.5 miles later, I think it was three hours or so later, whatever it was, two chicken trucks, which if you've never been on the side of the road when a chicken truck comes by, you ought to try it sometime. Not really, but yeah.
Take it from Allen.
Yes.
Don't get passed by chicken
No,
trucks when
don't.
you're standing on the side of the road.
We had an entire bag of tacos thrown at us at one point.
Oh, wow.
It was just like the night went from bad to worse. Then we get to the track, and they're getting ready to drop the green flag. So I messaged the girl that I was supposed to meet, and I'm like, hey, this is what happened. I'm so sorry. Can we meet after the race? Ghosted.
Oh, no.
Never even got to meet her. So finally get the car back home. And I had told the guys when we were walking, I was like, I get this thing home, and it's gone. I'm selling it.
Yeah.
They're like, you'll never sell that car. That's your baby. I said, no, it's done.
Ford cost you a girl.
Ford cost me a girl. So had a buddy of mine. He hauled the car home for me. I got it fixed. A week later, I'm sitting at Everett Chevrolet buying my first ever brand new car. And it was a 2010 Chevy Camaro. And that's all I've bought ever since.
And so what is it that you say you love American muscle. What is it specifically about the Camaros that you like? And do you want to talk about your Camaro at all, how special it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, for the Chevrolet, and I've driven the Mustang, I've driven the new Mustang, I've driven the Challenger, I've driven the Camaros. Honestly, for me, it's the comfortability. Ford's got some cool things that they do for the inside of the cars, but like even this one, the one we're driving now, heated seats, air conditioned seats, just the infotainment center, everything about what Chevrolet does is they do a lot to make the passenger experience really nice.
Yeah.
But then from a car enthusiast, just especially the Camaro, the way it drives, the way it handles, the power bands. I had a V6 Camaro, now I've got a 2SS V8 6-speed, very similar to this one, and just the power, the sound. I used to say
the
nothing.
Pop of the V8.
The pop of the V8, yes.
Yeah.
And you may be able to hear some of that in the video, but it's just they're just a ton of fun to drive. My fun car is a 2013 Hot Wheels Edition Camaro. It's out of 1,528. It was build number 30, and nobody seemed to want it because they didn't realize what those cars were at the time. Now everybody wants them. Those cars are still selling now, 10 years old, still selling for what they were brand new.
Wow.
So they're just, and that one, I love it. I mean, it's just, it's been my favorite car so far.
That's awesome. And so while we're talking about cars, you race late model trucks.
Yes.
That's kind of your prime thing. All right, so late model truck racing, or late model racing, I was kind of reading about this, but late model racing was really founded in the Carolinas. We had headed up to Wilkesboro today to possibly do some drag testing at their dragway. Unfortunately, it was too wet, but as we were driving up there, Allen was talking about how it was just cool to be in that area, because that's kind of, the fact that NASCAR is bringing the North Wilkesboro track back. It's really special because that's kind of where NASCAR was born. So with you driving late model vehicles, that type of racing, really the Carolinas being home to late model racing, we wanted to play some Trivial Matters, our new section called Trivial Matters. And for you, what we wanted to ask you trivia on was things that are born in the Carolinas.
Okay.
All right, so specifically Pepsi, right?
Okay.
Pepsi was made in the Carolinas. So we got 5 trivia questions for you, and you're not playing for anything. Like, we're not playing for this car or anything like that.
I thought that was the deal.
Oh, sorry.
I thought
No.
I got to drive this home if I get it all right.
No, I was not able to get that approved. So the first question I have, and I'm going to read these from a piece of paper so I make sure I get them right. What was the original name of Pepsi Cola?
Oh my. The original name of Pepsi Cola. I thought it was Pepsi Cola.
It was not. So do you have any?
PepsiCo?
PepsiCo? No. So the original name of Pepsi Cola was Brad's Drink.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know who Brad is. So if you're out there and you want to comment, make a suggestion below of who you think Brad is, feel free to do so, because we don't know who Brad is. Number 2, how many Pepsi logos have there been over the past 122 years?
25.
There have been 11.
Oh,
11
well,
Pepsi logos in the past 122 years. All right, number 3, and this is going to be multiple choice. So you got 1 out of 25%. You got a 25% chance to get right.
You know what I'm feeling here?
What are you feeling?
I think the more questions I answer wrong, the faster I need to drive.
The brand Pepsi gave this famous actress her first acting job. Is it A, Sofia Vergara, B, Drew Barrymore, C, Halle Berry, or D, Penelope Cruz?
Can I phone a friend?
No, this isn't. I'm not Regis Philbin.
Man. C.
Halle Berry, he says. It was actually Sofia Vergara, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yes.
All right, true, false. So 50-50 shot here.
It's getting better.
Pepsi was the first company to introduce 2-liter bottles to the market.
True.
That is true.
Yes.
Yes, got one right. Awesome. All right, and the last one here. Pepsi mascots, Pepsi Men, which I didn't realize they were called Pepsi Men, were used in television commercials in Japan in the 1990s.
I'm going to say yes. True.
That is true. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I didn't know Pepsi had a mascot.
I had seen some YouTube video or something with those in them, but I didn't realize they was in Japan.
Yeah, it sounds very, that's very interesting. All right, so back to some questions for Allen. What have been some of your biggest, and you kind of mentioned this before, but what have been some of your biggest successes off the track?
Honestly, probably the biggest one was just creating and founding NCM Ministries. Being able to travel the country and speak at youth events and churches, and to, for a lot of people, for them to feel like they've made a difference. It's about money or the bigger house or bigger car or bigger this, that, or the other. For me, it's really just about being able to impact others, to make a difference in the lives of others. And, when you have a chance to talk with a student or work with someone, and you get to see them be able to make those life decisions, to quit making the wrong decisions, and to get away from drugs or alcohol or whatever it may be, and to be there to help them turn their lives around. I think for me is probably the greatest opportunity to have an accomplishment.
Yeah, that is a big accomplishment, and you have to have some pretty good qualities about yourself to accomplish something like that. So what do you feel like? I mean, not to brag on yourself, but what do you feel like are some of your strongest qualities?
The ability to listen. And sometimes that's tough, but just to be able to listen and empathize with someone, it's probably one of the biggest ones. I like to think I'm compassionate and approachable. Yeah. It's always a huge. It's very humbling when someone will believe in you enough or feel like they can believe in you enough to be able to come and share what's going on in their life. So to be able to have that ability to be able to sit down with someone and just listen to what's going on. That's a tough question.
Yeah. Oh, it's weird because you do feel like you're bragging on yourself. But I mean, I think from what you've created, with your ministry and wanting to reach out to younger generation, even what you said of listening after the dad said that his son saw you throw your helmet in your trailer, you were able to make a change in your attitude because of how you listen to others, which I think is something that, a lot of us could learn from. So with that being said, what do you think makes you unique as a driver?
Probably the biggest thing, and again, and every bit of this goes back to just, God's influence and impact on my life. Faith is huge, and it's very important to me. Doesn't mean I always make the right choices, but I'm constantly looking to how do I be better, and how do I grow closer to God and my relationship with Him. But as far as being unique, I think really it goes back to my entire team, because the team that God has given me has helped me to be able to grow into the person I am today. They're the ones that help me stay focused and help me stay where I need to be. But along with that, it's just the ability to be able to process when things happen. We've had a lot of really bad things happen. Bad luck, or I don't really believe in luck, but call it what you want to call it. We've had a lot of bad situations. In fact, 2022 we ran 5 races and we had 5 parts failures.
Oh, wow.
2 that resulted in DNFs. One of them we were leading the race with a straightaway lead, and we ended up with 4 cautions, and ended up clutch come out of the truck and we lost the race. The last one had just finished our brand new late model stock up, and 13 laps into the race, our new to us engine hand grenaded and came apart. And I think it's the ability to process things, to keep a level head when the good and the bad does happen. And again, I don't always do a good job of that.
Sure.
We won't go into those details, but the ability for our team, we're not the ones out there looking to start a fight, or we're not the team that's out there using every colorful language that you could find on the racetrack to use. We're very calculated in our responses, and we've been blessed with that. So I think that's one of the things that probably makes us stand out more than others, is just, and a lot of that's just we've had the opportunity to be humbled. We've had the chances to win races and to experience the highest of highs, and then the very next week you get turned head on in the wall and destroy a truck.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to be able to balance those out and not celebrate too much,
right,
and not beat yourself up too bad.
Yeah. So how do you, amidst all of that, how do you stay motivated? You mentioned that you have a lot of difficulties that can come your way. How do you stay motivated when it may feel like, man, every single race has been a failure? Or, we did 5 races last year, we're hoping to do more this year. Does that mean we're going to have more parts failures?
So, first off, it's my faith. Secondly, is my team. Those are the 2 that keep me motivated, because every time I think about quitting or giving up, God either provides something, some way for us to be able to make it back to the next race.
Yeah.
And my team always steps up to the plate to make sure we can get things done. And their dedication is just, I can't even put it into words.
Yeah.
There was one race we wasn't racing, and the opportunity came up to be able to make the show, and our rear end was in Mooresville. I was in New York. The truck was in Newton.
Okay.
And my crew chief was in Mountain View, and another crew guy was in Maiden.
Yeah.
I called them and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. Wish we had another truck." By the time I landed in Charlotte, they had put together a plan. I got home, we thrashed, pulled into the racetrack at 6:56. Racing started at 7.
Oh, wow.
And we ran the race and ended up winning the championship that year because of that one night.
Yeah, wow.
So it's the motivation comes from just the dedication of my team, and provisions from God that, through it all, we know we're it's not just about racing. Right. It's about something bigger.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to being able to have the opportunity to be able to have the bigger impact, a positive impact on others. And when you get to have those conversations, after a race with a fan, that's almost as addicting as getting to go fast and turn left.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a live podcast, and we are almost out of gas. So we're going to get gas real fast, and then we'll be back. So hold on. And we're back. We're gassed up. We're ready to go. Things are fueled up.
Only one problem.
What's that?
That wasn't quite as fast as a NASCAR pit stop.
I know, yeah. I did not get you new tires, and I only got you gas, so kind of slow there.
Did you at least get us enough gas to make it to the end of the race?
I did get us enough gas to get us back to the dealership, yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So Allen, you have some recent news that you announced.
Yes.
Would you be interested in sharing about that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of my biggest dream when I was a kid, I got started in racing going to Hickory Motor Speedway when I was 5-6 years old, and I was just hooked from that point on. Well, had my dream from that point has always been to be able to make it to one of the top 3 series in NASCAR. And, was told a lot as a kid, by certain people that you'll never make it. It's too expensive. You don't have the right last name, all of this stuff. And you might as well just give up. I refuse to give up.
Yeah.
And even through everything we've went through, that dream has never went away. And so, thankfully, last March, I received an email, was actually approved for the Craftsman Truck Series. And so our goal for 2023, besides running some races at Hickory in the truck, running some of the Southeast Super Truck stuff, our goal is to be able to make our debut in the Craftsman Truck Series this year. And it's really about being able to take what we've done at the local level with making an impact on our community and our race fans, and to be able to take that and grow it to a national level, to just be able to widen that audience and widen that opportunity.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So we'll definitely stay out on the lookout for that. In the meantime, where can people find you?
Sure. So they can find us at ncnministries.com, which that stands for New Creation Nation. So NCN. They can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all under NCN Ministries. Our Facebook page is NCN Ministries /Integrity Motorsports. Okay. But if you just look for NCN Ministries, you can find it from there.
That's awesome. And also for people who want to follow along with you on the racetrack, how can they? We were talking off camera about some live stream options.
Yes. So the races that are held at Hickory Speedway will be televised through Flow Racing, which is live streamed. There's a couple different channels depending on where you're at, where some of those races will actually be televised through your cable provider. But also with the Southeast Truck Series, those will be live streamed through Pit Road TV.
Okay. Awesome. So make sure you tune in there to watch Allen race live. I'm sure he'll be updating us on his Facebook page and Instagram and whatnot of what races he'll be a part of. Is there anything else that you wanted to share, Allen?
Yeah, if you don't have an Everett vehicle, you need to get one.
Okay.
I bought 4 or 5. I don't know. I've lost count.
Oh, wow.
My crew chiefs bought 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Several of my friends have bought 2 or 3. I love Everett Chevrolet. And I cannot thank you guys enough for your investment, not just in our race team, but in our ministry, and be able to come alongside of us and help us to be able to do what we do. But I also want to thank some of our other partners, Rentrags, Western Steer. Both of them have been with us, will be 11 years now that we've had the privilege to be able to carry their banner. We've just picked up 2 new partners, Carswell's Landscaping and Carswell's Tree Service. We're getting ready to announce those this week. So kind of a live or kind of a surprise announcement from this, but
awesome.
We're looking forward to making that official and getting that out. And I just want to thank my team, my family, God, for the opportunity to be able to do what we do.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
So much fun.
Well, this has been In the Car with Allen Huffman, presented by Everett Chevrolet, and we look forward for you joining us next time.
Make sure to shop this vehicle and all our other selections at everettchevy.com.